Going live, going live, going live. All right, all right, all right. All right. Yes, finally, you are now listening to, and this is Geek Mode. This is where we talk about what we geek for. Finally, this is us doing a podcast, us, just shooting a GIF, making sure that we shoot it right, whatever I'm saying. Right now, it's just the two of us on this one. So, of course, right now, talking is Martel Berry, co-founder of Geek Mode Group, and also co-founder of GeekModeOnline.com. Right now, I have a friend to the room, admin of the Geek Mode Group, one of the admins of Geek Mode Group. It's Talmage. What's going on, brother?
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
All right, all right, all right. Let's get to it, please. Avengers. This is Avengers weekend. I'm pretty sure by now many people have seen it, but we're still going to discuss it.
Some of y'all seen it twice.
Yeah, that's good for them. So right now, since it's the Avengers weekend, we're going to talk about Avengers and what we thought about it. TJ, man, I'm gonna let you start it off. What did you think of Avengers Age of Ultron?
Underwhelmed is what I thought.
Yeah.
It was a lot of flash, a lot of spectacular action scenes and everything great. No story. Story to me was non-existent. I know a lot of people are going to be angry and upset, and a lot of people are going to swear up and down. It was a phenomenal story and da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, it was as much story as your average Transformers movie.
Oh, damn. I don't think it's that bad.
That's just where I fall in it. But it's weird, though, because, like, for me to say that, people are going to immediately assume that I hated it. It's like I didn't hate it. I actually enjoyed the movie. I plan on seeing it again for the second time. I had fun while watching it. I feel like the movie itself got lost in the action sequences. Okay. So they focused on that whole action dynamic, and then they threw story around the action as opposed to what we were used to from most Marvel films, especially a Whedon project, where it's the story and the action complements it. It was the other way around. And so yeah, I just found myself like overwhelmed. I walked out of that movie and looked over to the people I went to see it with, and I was like, "Hey, what was the most memorable scene in that movie for you?" And they looked at me blank-eyed and couldn't come up with anything. That to me is a sign of an underwhelming film.
Yeah, that's the funny thing for me. Like, I seriously walked out that movie geek depressed, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I too liked the movie. I too liked it. It's just that it didn't do anything, and I didn't expect anything other than what the movie was. I'm pretty sure someone would say, well, you just had high expectations. I always walk into a movie with a clear mind. The most expectation I have is, obviously, I paid money for it. The movie should be good to me. I saw it, and while watching it, I felt like the movie started well. Like, it was good setup in terms of where we started, but it never went higher than that to me. The action scenes weren't impressive. They weren't whack, though. Nothing about the movie was whack. The movie was not whack whatsoever. I just felt like you said, I underwhelmed. I would say disappointed, but I thought the movie was cool. I would even go as far as say the movie was good. There just wasn't anything that really sold me on the movie. I thought there was no story. I thought the story was weak. That's probably what set up a lot of their biggest problems. It's probably why I didn't get into the action scenes that much, because I was like, it's almost like you have action almost for nothing. It's not enough to support it. I didn't think that your villain was strong enough either. I didn't dislike Ultron. It's just that it was like, he was a talking, joking robot, and it reminded me of Loki in a roundabout way. Loki is, jokey, charismatic, kind of a character, but that's really all there was to him. And I feel like they were trying to reinvent that with Ultron, and it didn't quite work. I think the biggest problems with the movie for me is, and I think I can make it brief. One, the movie felt too much like the first one. You did a lot of things similar, like you broke up the group like they did in the first one. You fought each other. You even fought a Hulk, just like the first one. And I felt like that's cool and all, but you've already done that already. I felt like their introspection, about looking into each other, as far as their own issues had already been done. Like Cap had already did that in Winter Soldier. So you were just retreading ground and you were doing it in a light way. So
exactly.
So I was like, you didn't need to do that. You could have done something else, with that, instead of wasting time doing that.
And if I could just jump in before we
Please
get into that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most interesting aspects of the movie was Ultron. And I think that might be why I was so underwhelmed, is because, of course, these films shouldn't be like the comic books. Like, it's not meant, you can't, it's really hard to translate a comic book character into film and make it just as interesting.
Agreed. I'm real cool with that, by the way. I'm very cool with that,
Yeah, and there's a certain aspect where you say, this Ultron felt Loki-ish. I don't think he felt Loki-ish to me. Mm-hmm. It really was like if Pinocchio was evil. And it's funny because they played on that a couple of times, him with his favorite song stuck in his head throughout the whole movie and just the way he acted. But it was also like, when I say if Pinocchio was evil, I'm not saying, it's a wooden boy coming to life. I'm saying if a child was evil, it was like he came off childish.
Well, whereas, okay, so let me just cut you off real quick. And that's what I mean by Loki-ish. Not so much that the problem with Loki is that he has a problem with his brother. And it's a childish, insecure issue that he has with his brother. So they're not the same character, but at the same time, the thing that they're doing is almost like they're occupying the same space. One is they're talking in manners that you would think Ultron, especially when you're judging it from the first trailer, which is the only one that I saw, that he was going to be more menacing.
Yes.
He wasn't.
Not at all.
So you find yourself saying, well, all right, so what's the big deal about this dude? And really, you're kind of wisecracking in your own way, but it's in the vein of Loki. It's in the vein of all those type of villains, where I'm like, you may have wanted to do something different, so I could have said, oh, this is different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Ultron, we got Loki. Loki and Tony Stark had a kid.
Right.
That's exactly what it was.
And this is what you get. And you're not, you're not tough. Like, you're going head to head with Cap. You went head to head with Iron Man. Like, never once did it look like Ultron had like the real, like he was a threat. Like, he didn't never feel like a threat. He again just basically did what Loki did. I split up the team. I did my little bit of, I'm one step ahead of you, which is something that Loki did, and that's that. And it's not whack. It's like, okay, it's cool that you did that, but I'm not thoroughly impressed because I've seen it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And it's weird because it's like you explain that whole scenario, and then people are gonna be like, "Well, you just hated it, or you're hating on it." It's like, you're not hating on it. You still haven't said it was bad. You just said, you saw it. You saw it before.
But I'm sorry to cut you off on that. Uh-huh. I can understand it a little bit because the question becomes, well, you're not talking about anything good. If you're talking, you say you like the movie, right? You say the movie's cool and good, but you only talk about the bad stuff. And I'm like, well, that's what's sticking out to me right now. I'll get to the good stuff, but what's bad is like, it's like Dark Knight Rises. Those movies are equivalent in that way. Like, I love Dark Knight Rises. Mad problems with that movie. So
you say what?
Oh, mad problems with that movie.
You say you love Dark Knight Rises, huh?
I love Dark Knight Rises. Yes, I loved it. But I only love it because I put a lot of weight on significant things. You know what I mean? So that's what gives it that balance out. Where Avengers Age of Ultron is real even keel. So I found myself saying, well, it's not whack, but I'm not just jumping out of my skin about anything.
Right.
And that's that. So if anything, that's what's so depressing for me, geek depressed. That's what's so geek depressed for me about that.
I like that term. I'm gonna use that. Can we make that a real term? Can somebody get that hashtag depressed? Started?
Yes, geek depressed.
Can that become a new hashtag? Can we get that trending? Geek depressed.
Right. Where I'm sure whoever enjoyed Age of Ultron, yo, I'm happy for you. I wish I was you at that moment, like really, really enjoyed it. Like, you know, because people are like, yo, I loved it. It was excellent. Yo, I am not going to argue with you, bro. I'm not trying to argue you down. You know, I'm just letting you know why I don't feel the same way. And I wish I could have felt that way. But, you know, those are some of the reasons why I didn't, you know.
I mean, and since, you know, we started the opposite way that most people start these things, where they talk about the good and the bad, we kind of talked about the bad and the good. But I'll say this, like, there's a lot of people who argue that it had this wonderful story of, you know, Captain or Tony Stark created this evil machine that almost destroyed the world. The problem with the pacing of it and the story concept of it is it never really establishes that Tony Stark actually created this thing. And I hate to go back to comic books, but, you know, when the original Ant-Man, call his name for me. I can't remember his name right now.
Which one, Scott Lang?
Hank Pym. When Hank Pym created Ultron, it was a culmination of a lot of things. You know, it was insecurities, it was inadequacies, and it was also a want to be a hero, a stronger, a better hero, as well as just, you know, an advancement of technology. Like, it was a lot of things that made the birth of Ultron so both tragic and awesome, because it was like, he never set out to create Ultron to be like the replacement Avenger as much as he just wanted to add to the overall film.
Okay.
Whereas Tony kind of just came out of left field. You know, we got the Vision Quest moment, and then he comes back and he's like, oh, I'm creating this thing. And then he's like, hey, Bruce, remember this? And he's like, yeah. And it's like, okay, wow, cool. And now we have Ultron. It was like, there was no weight given to it. And I felt like, you know,
that has, I think, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think that has everything to do with the story. You know, the story moves so fast. Because to me, you could have actually put all that weight into Stark and Banner. Like, to Stark's credit, you know, he makes sense about saying, yo, you know, I need to create Ultron where we don't have to do our thing anymore. But you kind of already show that with the Iron Legion. But because you don't really get into what the Iron Legion is, you understand that, you know, you're moving too fast. You're not paced well.
You see, it's funny because, you know, the Tony Stark that we got in this movie is still the Tony Stark suffering from PTSD, right?
Right.
But was it though? Because they never even acknowledged. In fact, they had him essentially brag about the incident, you know? And I refer to it as an incident for my Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans and Daredevil fans. We'll call it the incident.
All right.
He essentially brags about it, right? You know, you don't get that sense that he's doing this because he's scared or because he had this massive moment happen to him in his life. And then when we do first see the Iron Legion, you know, we see 3 of them, which is like, you can't call 3 people an Iron Legion, especially when at the end of Iron Man 3, you've seen, 100 Iron Suits?
Right.
And then you see people turned against them and they're rallying against them, but there's no reason for them to be doing that at that moment. You kind of get a hint to it when, you know, Quicksilver Pietro talks about being stuck next to a Tony Stark, you know, bombshell for 3 days. But that was one incident, and it would more or less tie more back to the original Iron Man movie than it would the concept of an Iron Legion being something terrifying.
Right.
You know, and I'm not going to get into the whole it should be set in a Civil War, because I just don't think that it's necessary that this movie set that movie up. But I will say this, you know, what's going on in this Tony Stark mind where he's trying to basically have world peace? What is he doing outside of the Avengers? Is his Iron Legion actually fighting wars now? You know, like, there's a lot of things they could have touched on to better give you an idea of why Ultron, 1, would be necessary, and 2, why he would have react the way he did. The other issue I had with that, I'm not...
No, continue. No, please continue.
Right. The other issue I have with that is when we see Ultron, we see the birth of Ultron. He essentially kills his brother, right? It's like you have 2 kids in the womb, and one kills his brother, which is him getting rid of Jarvis, right? But there was no moment between basically Ultron being created, becoming self-aware, seeing what the world is, and deciding that the only way to fix the world is to destroy the world. You know, he wasn't the helper bot, and then he became that. He wasn't the sort of like, I see what you guys are doing. This is crazy. There's only one way to fix it, you know?
Well, all right. Well, to be fair about that, and this actually addresses another, you know, both your points. Marvel in general is not necessarily that way. They're
Right.
not trying to be that deep, and I respect that. Like I'm cool with that.
Okay.
So when you look at it that way, it's like, look, that's a lot of setup.
Right.
The problem that I have is the movie is actually one big setup for something else.
Yes.
That's what it feels like.
Yes.
So when
Right.
you bring up Civil War, like I don't think we need to talk about that, or maybe they didn't need to set up Civil War. I'm saying, well, I don't feel like they needed to set that up either. The problem is I feel like you're setting up everything else anyway. You brought up Wakanda. You cut off Claw's arm. By the way, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Age of Ultron, we are making reference to things in Age of Ultron. It is going to be a little bit of spoiler filled.
Still say Claw's the best villain in that whole movie. Go ahead.
But the thing is, when you do that, it's kind of like, well, you're spending a lot of time setting things up that you don't need to set up. Like, I feel like you're just priming everything rather than just getting into a actually well thought out story on its own.
Exactly.
So you can keep it light, but then get to what it is that you're doing. You want to get to Ultron like that? All right, cool. But what is it? What is it about Ultron that's going to make him the threat that fast? He's in the internet. He has all these keys. Why isn't he setting off nuclear explosions right now on the spot?
Right.
Why isn't he doing all those things? Why isn't he playing all those things out?
And they explain that in the movie.
Oh, they do. Well, then tell me why, because I clearly have forgotten.
They explain that he didn't really kill Jarvis. He put Jarvis into the internet, and Jarvis essentially fought back. He was sort of an antivirus to Ultron, and so Jarvis kept him from basically securing the nuclear bombs. But here's where this becomes an issue. The storyline again.
Uh-huh.
Basically, when they had that throwaway line where Tony's like, Jarvis is fighting him or whatever, it came off not as a part of the overall story, but as oh yeah, guys, we forgot. Wouldn't he be able to do this? Well, let's add this line so we take care of that.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like
that's probably why I didn't remember it, because it was just like almost like not a throwaway line. It was a line that you needed, but I wasn't even thinking about it at the time until I got to the end, where I was like, wait, this is your master plan. Why didn't you just go all out crazy beforehand? It's just that kind of thing. But I just feel that those are all the things that hurt the film. Should we talk about what we liked about the movie though? We start, shall you want to start first or shall I go first?
I'm gonna start first just because everybody and their mom for the next 2 years or until Infinity Wars come on are gonna claim that I'm a Marvel hater, because I'm gonna always get on these threads. I'm gonna always point out everything that I was wrong, because if you hold people honest, then they'll get better.
Right.
One thing that I will say, and this may be controversial, it may not be, but Captain America has become the best superhero on film, and I think going forward they can celebrate that. I think they've made him the best superhero. Okay. Now, on top of that, they've made Chris Evans the best character, best person to portray a superhero. And I put him above Robert Downey Jr. I put him above Henry Cavill, Superman, for the simple fact that he is 110% a pure superhero. Okay. Like, he's not a shady gray character. He's not, I don't know, I have emotional issues. Mm-hmm. He's none of those things. He is the hero. Like, when we think of heroes, we always think of the guy that's a little bit better than all of us and will always do what he can to help everyone. And that's kind of what they've done with Captain America. They've made him that, but they've also made him equal parts of badass. Like, right. I mean, come on, who didn't jump up when he threw his motorcycle into a Humvee? That's crazy.
I didn't, but I liked it. I didn't jump up though, but I liked it.
I mean, hey, listen.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was
jump up as a figure of speech, but I personally was like, okay, I'm in. When that moment happened, even though we saw it in the trailer a billion times, it was just still cool to see.
I didn't, so I was good. That was the first time I saw it. Uh-huh.
It's still cool to see. It's still cool to see that that coming out of a Captain America character. Like, you get to see him do all these crazy moments. There was a flip, and I can't think of the name of it. My best friend is going to kill me because he's a stunt guy. But there was a moment where he does sort of a 1080 flip over something, over one of the I think it was an Ultron bot coming at him. He lands on his.
Is it toward the end?
I think it's towards the end. He jumps over and twists around and lands on his feet.
Yeah.
There's another scene where he gets knocked off of a car. and he's falling and he still lands on his feet. And it's like, see, that's a hero. Like, I don't want to see him struggling every 5 minutes. Like, if I want to see a guy winning but struggling, I'll watch Die Hard. I want to watch my hero be a hero. You know what I'm saying?
See, okay, no,
But
yeah,
this is only with Captain America. That's why I say it makes him great. And like, if I'm going to compare him, if I'm going to compare him to, Man of Steel, Superman, which is still technically not Superman yet, it's still Man of Steel. But
okay,
if I'm going to compare him to him, Man of Steel spent a lot of that movie, trying to figure out who he was and kind of not half-assing, but like sort of unsure of his every motion and movement. So it's really hard to look at him as like a pure hero as much as you just appreciated things that he did. Whereas Captain America, you're like, yeah, okay, he's a hero. He's in it for everyone else and not himself,
Okay, I don't agree, but I respect your opinion. But
no, it's how I looked at it.
No doubt.
One of the other aspects I loved about it, and I know you touched upon, like, did they split the team up? But I think in this movie, we got a sense more so than we did in the last Avengers that these guys are a team, party scene aside, even when they were going through their whole split up, when they were in their heads, they were still sort of a family. They didn't abandon each other and go their separate ways. They still hung around each other and kind of was there for each other. Even with Thor going off on his own vision quest, he still was like, it didn't seem like he abandoned the team as much as he was like, I got to figure some shit out. And they took off. You know what I mean? Like,
I got you.
I loved how they kind of had that whole camaraderie. And then I love the fact they ended it with Tony Stark and, Steve Rogers as brothers. Like, they were looking into each other's eyes, even though they joke about them looking into each other's eyes long, like if they were lovers, but
right.
They were there, like they understood each other's point of view. Like,
right.
They were standing there on equal grounds. And then you had Captain America explain it to Tony Stark, like, hey, I tried to live I had my chance to have a full life. That life was gone when I fell in the ice. Now I'm here. I'm this is what I'm here for. I'm here to protect the world. And Tony Stark almost looks at him like, yeah, like, like my whole thing was I was trying to make us obsolete, but then he looks at him like, but you'll never be obsolete because this is what you're here for. And I'm here to support you. I'm here to support you and everybody in this whole operation,
Right. With that said, all that you mentioned is what I did like about the film as well. I didn't look at it. I don't look at it per se in terms of Cap in that way. I personally prefer all my heroes to struggle, but they can struggle in their own way. So, I like what I liked about the movie was all the camaraderie. They beat for a quick minute and then they kind of moved on past it.
Fabulous.
I like the fact that they didn't get that to me is like the part of Marvel in terms of their cinematic universe that I really do enjoy. I even though I felt like you already covered that in terms of Captain America and Winter Soldier, as far as him knowing what he wanted to do, I feel like he was already good on that in Winter Soldier. But in terms of them being buddy at the end and this, that, and the third, I was really cool with that. I actually also like the relationship between Bruce Banner and Black Widow. I really did enjoy that. You did? I did. I did. I felt it was forced. I felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah, I know people try to make a case. I go, yeah, now that case is weak, but I liked it anyway. I just thought that it worked really well because I felt like when you really think about all the Marvel movies, she's the only one that she actually makes a pass at. I think some people get confused with Winter Soldier and think that she made a pass at Steve Rogers. It's like, no, she never really does.
She spent the movie making fun of him, to be honest.
Right. So in this movie, I'm like, yo, it's really cool about how all that worked out. I did enjoy that. I enjoyed the fight scenes that had team up moves where Cap would throw the shield and somebody would catch it or vice versa, where all these things were happening and they were fighting together. I did enjoy that.
The Sonic Boom.
Yeah, that was probably like one of the coolest comic book moments in there. Like, yo, I got it. And it was just that. All that was cool. All that was what and everything is. It also felt like a comic book. Those paneling action scenes, I was like, I feel like I knew the artist that drew that in the whole nine. I thought all that was good. I really enjoyed it.
Exactly. I did. It was a little weird, but still dope, and it makes sense. Like, I know somebody's eventually going to say, "Hey, how come he did this?" but it made so much sense when you know the character. But when Hawkeye threw Captain America the shield,
yeah,
and I don't know, like, and this is what I love. Maybe this is one reason why I'm so in love with the Man of Steel movie. But I love subtle signs of detail.
Yes, me too.
When you acknowledge things where it's like you don't have to say, "Hey, look at this," but if you know what you're seeing, you see it. So yeah, Widow essentially when she caught the shield off the ground, she kind of kicked it up at him, but it was sort of a sloppy toss, and he caught it. You know, when Hawkeye threw that shield, he threw it with perfect precision. Like he almost threw it directly into Captain America's hands. And you say, well, hold on. If Captain America has a shield and anybody can throw the shield, then anybody can, control it. It's like, no. Hawkeye is accuracy. Like that's his superpowers. He's super accurate, and he sees things the same way Captain America can bounce his shield off of a million people and steal it up in his hand. Right. That's how Hawkeye sees the world too. So it makes sense for Hawkeye to be able to precisely throw a shield directly at Captain America.
Right. And what's so great about that, what's cool about that is it's both a if you have a cinematic eye, you'll pick that up. You'll pick up that subtlety. But also, if you have a geek eye, you'll pick up that subtlety. That's basically the way they are in the comic books anyway. You pick those things up, and it's always great when a writer can really pick that up.
Exactly.
I thought we was gonna move past this, but it's still two things that we can talk about maybe for like 5 minutes. Let's talk about Vision. What did you think of Vision?
Phenomenal. Saved the movie.
See, I was indifferent about Vision.
Indifferent. Okay.
I was indifferent.
The ending with Vision was part of the whole overall underwhelming aspect of it. Let's be honest. He came into the scene and he got his ass whipped by Ultron. When I say phenomenal, it was because every like the building of Vision was cool but weird because it wasn't so much like I don't maybe I need to reread the history of the lore of the comic book, but Ultron wasn't trying to build Vision so he could be inside his body. He built him, for actual real purpose. But the way that they handled it with the building, with the with basically Scarlet Witch basically freeing the mind of the nurse or the doctor rather, and then the doctor basically stopping the download. And all of the different aspects of it, the evolution of Jarvis into the Vision, the mind, the whole tomb where they're sitting there, they're trying to figure out like, do we resurrect this guy or not? It's like, do you do it? And then Thor coming in with the hammer, bringing it back to life. The Vision basically exploding into the film, literally exploded into the film through Thor's side, just so he can finally see what it is. And to me, that was like, if Jarvis was this disembodied, computer voice who only saw ones and zeros, this was his first time actually seeing what the world is. And he stood there, and that's one of the moments where like I almost wish they would have did a play on time where they showed the sunrise and set, so it almost looked like he stood there for a day. I don't know, it was just made more sense, but that's me being overly artistic. But he stood there, and in that standing there, he decided what he wanted to do. It was like he didn't wake up and say, okay, I'm the Vision. He had to look out and see if he see the beauty of the world. Is it worth saving or is it not? And how you knew he felt like it was is because he turned around and he took on some of the appearance of the world. He kind of turned the color in. Then he looked at Captain America. He took on a facial mask. Then he looked at Iron Man for the rest of the color. Then he looks at Thor and sees the cape, creates the cape. And it was almost like he slowly was like, I'm going to be one of all of you all. So I am basically everyone's child and not.
See, right. But my problem is because the movie is moving a little too fast, that doesn't really settle well to me. And also because the movie is kind of light in that way. Like it's not, it's not profound. Not saying that no one else can't see this or like think their own implicit meanings into certain things. But I'm saying, for me, that didn't resonate for me. I just, I thought he was cool looking. I felt like once you do the cool thing that he did, he to me he does one cool thing in that moment when he's born, that involved Thor. I was kind of like, yeah, but you don't live up to that. I don't see what makes you that. You're just shooting eye beams and hand beams like everybody else, and then getting your behind kicked after that. So that's why I was indifferent about him. You know, the crazy thing that I actually ended up liking about him, really, and this is probably going to be like stupid to people, but I like how his name came up. Thor says, you know, I had a vision, you
Right.
know, and Ultron later on says, my vision. So
Right.
I really dug the duality of that word vision and how it applies to vision. So
And
yeah,
that
so
and that's what
okay,
I mean by him taking on an aspect of everything, like even his name.
good point.
His name was like I was born out of Thor's vision,
Right.
you know. And hey, like in this Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thor is an alien,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in comics and or in every concept, the concept of Thor is he's a god. So
What are you banging on? Are you that
oh,
like into it? Where you just you got to bang on your table?
you know what? It probably I didn't even know it was picking up. Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's all right.
No, what I was saying was so in this sense, you have this God who basically created life. He created a living being, right? Basically, him hitting that with that hammer, he created this living being, or he breathed air into humans, or whatever you want to call it, the new advancement. So, all right, yeah. Welcome to New York.
All right.
I'm gonna try to give the chance to pass so we can cut it out.
All right. Nah, don't worry about it. I'm probably just gonna, we're just gonna go straight. It's all right. Go ahead.
No, that's cool. So, but I mean, I'm saying, like, to me, that was a really cool aspect that, Thor, the god, brought this next level of human beings to life. He breathed air into it in every aspect of it. And then I just go back to how cool it was to subtly see Vision take form. You know, he looked at these three individuals in the room, and that's how he came up with his costume, just as much as he took his name on, because he realized he was created out of the visions of two different people. Right. So whereas Ultron had a vision of him being the destroyer of worlds, Thor had a vision of him being the bringer of light. So it's like, I am the vision. That's who I am, you know.
All right. I mean, I guess, with that said, then I think, to me, I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, I don't really care to cover Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I can pretty much sum that up to say, I actually, I thought they were all right. They were cool. But whatever on my part. I think
there's one part we got to touch on,
because
the simple fact that Quicksilver was in there. Who was the better Quicksilver? I think you didn't. You say you didn't see X-Men: Days of Future Past?
No, I didn't, but I saw his highlights.
Okay, the better Quicksilver out of the two, I'm sorry, hands down, is the one we got in this Avengers movie. Ooh. Simply because he was Quicksilver. Quicksilver in the X-Men: Days of Future Past he was a Quicksilver by name only, but he was not the character Quicksilver that will, he was not the character Quicksilver that's ever been in any type of comic book media at all. In fact, his name was Peter. It wasn't Pietro. Right. He was just fast, and there was nothing about it. This Quicksilver was an amalgamation of all the versions of him from comic books and cartoons brought to life in the movie, and I think to me, he was better. Okay. The dialogue was a little wooden, but that's Aaron Taylor. That's just the way he acts.
Right, and also I take it up again. I put that with story.
Yeah, there you go. It was a story. But like I said, that was a little wooden. Some of the scenes, they chose not to show the effect of running fast. They just showed him blur, in and out, very Smallville-ish.
Right.
But it was cool. It was cool. It just lets you know who he was. I thought it was odd that they chose to show him physically getting tired after everything. Because, Quicksilver in the comics, his being that he's a mutant, which I know they can be in the movie, they never really expunged on him being tired per se, as much as they'll show him like constantly consuming things, or he does little things to always keep himself energized. But in this movie, they showed him like physically getting tired after everything he did. Right. It was both cool and weird to me at the same time. But I think they made the better Quicksilver if we want to see Quicksilver proper. Agree? Disagree?
What'd you say?
Did you agree? Disagree?
No. I mean, I guess I would say I disagree. Neither one of them really had an impact on me like that. I could say that because I didn't see X-Men: Days of Future Past in its entirety, I really can't judge. I just saw his highlights, and I just kind of shrugged my shoulders to him because I don't like the presentation of, let's say, Bryan Singer's X-Men films. And in this movie, The story's presentation isn't the best. So Quicksilver doing his thing, I just can say, I like that he did that. I like that. I like that. So I guess if anything, by default, because he's the one that I'm saying I like, I guess I would say he's the better one. But in terms of like, he doesn't do anything really special to me either. So that's why I'm like, I'm neither here nor there with that. With that said, we got the numbers for the box office for Age of Ultron, correct? How much did Age of Ultron make in the first weekend?
$187.7 million. Just shy of the first Avengers movie, which made, if I'm not mistaken, $201 million in its opening weekend. $207 million.
You're a little more than shy. You're $20 million off.
I mean, hey, once you get past $100 million, everything else is shy.
Right. Right. I mean, look, I wasn't saying that like it had to meet 207 million, or higher. I thought the buzz for it was going to make it higher, but something was telling me that 207. It was like right place, right time. It's hard to capture lightning in a bottle like that.
I figured it wasn't going to make the 200 million simply because they oversold it. Mm-hmm. There was a new trailer leading up to this. The last 2 or 3 weeks of this was almost like a new trailer every 3 days, or a new cut or TV spot. And I mean, the first Avengers had a lot of trailers, but it was essentially the same trailer shown over and over. Mm. But these studios have to realize that when your trailers are big moments and action scenes, you don't need to show too many, because then people eventually start to think that they've seen the movie. Right. Whether they've seen it or not, they start to feel that way, and it sort of gets put on the back burner. Right. And then you also have to look at the political climate of this weekend. There's a lot of things that happened this week, that took a lot of focus off of the concept of a superhero movie, mm-hmm. In this country, and those things. And I mean, I don't want to touch on what was going on because it's a deeper discussion. I don't want to, go into that discussion, but it was a big moment in American history, and that will 100% affect the weekend box office. Then there was also this little fight that happened, Saturday night, which was costing a lot of people $100 or more. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people had to make that decision. And, a lot of people thought, well, boxing fans aren't going to want to watch a comic book movie, but it's like, no, comic book movies aren't for comic book fans anymore. They're for the general public. And their core demographic is 15 to 29-year-old males. That's the boxing demographic as well. So all these little things will factor into why this movie didn't clear $200 million. Right. So it's not a knock on the movie, but 187.7 is still a hell of a number.
Right. We can definitely say, one, it's a success. 2, people were interested in it. 3, like I said, we still thought the movie was cool or good. Where do you think? So with that said, where do you think this movie lasts in terms of like all the great comic book movies? Or what? Let's keep it simpler. Where do you think it lands among Marvel Studio movies?
Amongst Marvel Studio movies, it's definitely in the top 5.
Okay. So what's your top 5?
I figured you would ask that question. I should have been prepared for that question.
Since you're thinking.
Marvel Studios proper, though, right? Marvel Studios proper is what we're talking about.
Right, the cinematic universe.
All right, you ready?
If you know yours, then go ahead, because I already got mine.
Okay. Winter Soldier.
Is that number 1? Or
that's number 1. I'll do it in order. Winter Soldier, Iron Man number 1, Avengers, Incredible Hulk number 4, and Age of Ultron number 5. And I know people get really irritated with Incredible, like people are, on the fence about Incredible Hulk, but I just felt like Incredible Hulk gave us our best villain to date. I know people love Loki, but I'm kind of over Loki. But Emil Blonsky was the first, and I think he's technically the only real Marvel villain to actually be villainous and not just sort of set dressing, where he's just there and back and there and back, and then here's the big battle, and then he gets beat anticlimactically, here's a dance off, and the movie's over. It's like,
very good point.
He, let's be honest, Harlem got destroyed because Emil Blonsky decided he wanted to become the Abomination and give it to the Hulk.
Right.
So that's why it always hit. That's why it's always up there for me, and that's why I think I give it number 4, and I give it just slightly above Avengers: Age of Ultron.
All right, so Avengers: Age of Ultron. So Avengers number 1 is not in your top 5.
It is. I put that at number 3.
Oh, then I must not have been paying attention. I'm sorry. I
got it right. I got it behind the first Iron Man.
Okay. I respect it. I'm not judging your list. Mine's in terms of among Avengers Cinematic Universe, number 5. You know what? No, let's do it as number 1. Number 1 for me is still Avengers number 1. So Avengers number 1 still does it for me. 2 is Winter Soldier. 3 is Iron Man 1. 4 is Age of Ultron. And then 5, I think I would probably put Incredible Hulk. I mean, I figure they might be interchangeable now that I think about it, especially when you make up the.
We're gonna get in trouble. We're gonna get in trouble.
Oh man, I mean, come see me.
You know what movie people are gonna be mad about? How was that not in your top 5? It was the greatest Marvel movie ever. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh no, that's not in my top 5.
Negative people. Sorry, Guardians of the Galaxy is a good movie I enjoyed it thoroughly. I actually saw it like 4 times in the theater. No, but it's not really that good.
You see, I didn't like it. It ain't. It's movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, or even Thor 2, which is another movie I didn't like. They're not like comic book movies 10, 20 years ago. Like, they're not garbage. They're just not my cup of tea. I don't like them. They just do certain things that I don't like. So that's that. Just because I'm a geek doesn't mean I'm supposed to like every single geek movie that comes out. The law of averages, you're just not. You're not law of averages. But with that said, I put Age of Ultron at number 4. So it's, I mean, so to me that should tell you that I'm definitely not saying it's the wackest one of the bunch. I thought it was good. Where do you think it lands in terms of all-time comic book movies?
All-time comic book movies? I don't have it in my top 10 in all-time comic book movies.
Yeah, I hear you.
And it's weird because, I mean, it is by far the most comic booky movie to come out.
Hold on, say it again.
It's the most comic booky movie to come out. I just made up a word. I think they're comic booky, but it's the most comic book-esque movie to come out to date.
Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron. I mean, like you said earlier in the statement, some of the action sequences felt like they were lifted straight off of a 2-page splasher in a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
The color tones, the characters themselves were very much a comic book. It was just, the story wasn't there. Like, the story wasn't there, and I felt more underwhelmed than I did overwhelmed. And much like Jamie Foxx singing the national anthem, an Avengers movie should always feel grand. Like, you should never be like, okay. It should always feel like the biggest thing you've ever saw. It should always feel like a spectacle, a spectacular story, and it should always feel massive. And I just didn't get that feeling with this movie.
You know what? You make an excellent point. That's one of what you just said is one of the reasons why I actually put Iron Man 1 as an example ahead of Avengers Age of Ultron. As big as Age of Ultron is, or Avengers movies are, they always seem kind of smaller in scope. They don't, both of them. And I love Avengers 1. It doesn't feel epically large to me. Dark Knight Rises, for me, no matter what, cinematically, and I'm pretty sure it's also due to the cinematography and directing, it's only about Gotham, yet Dark Knight Rises felt bigger than Avengers.
I'll give you that. As horrible as Dark Knight Rises is as a movie, it did feel bigger.
So with that said, Iron Man 1 feels just as big as Age of Ultron to me.
Yeah.
So when you do that, that's another reason why it knocks it down on the list. And another reason why I knock it down on the list is because all the jokes that Age of Ultron has. no, it's not. I'm not saying that it shouldn't have had the jokes. I actually felt like they should have had all the jokes, like, you know, all the time jokes that they wanted. Unlike my problems with Guardians of the Galaxy, where I felt like the jokes were forced. I felt like it was insert joke here now. Like I knew they were coming, and there was nothing that I thought was funny or surprising. Age of Ultron to me had well-timed jokes, even though they were running them off on and on and on and on. My problem was they all sounded like one note jokes.
Yeah.
They all sound like they all seemed like the same joke, you know, or designed to do the same exact thing and not just to laugh. Because, you know, obviously the basics of a joke is to laugh, but there are different types of jokes that, you know, that make you laugh for different reasons. All the jokes basically would have me laugh in the same tone, same way for the same reason. So Iron Man as an example, or even Avengers jokes to me they have more variety, you know. So that's why it's higher on the list than, let's say, Age of Ultron for me. So that's my explanation for that. Do you have any other explanations for on why Age of Ultron makes your list in that way?
There's also you know, I don't need my Marvel movies to be heavy. I like the spin-off, sort of the offshoot movies, to kind of have a more of a heavy feel, because it's cool, you know, like what we got to see in the Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. But and maybe, who knows, maybe this is a setup for this sought after what they call that. It's not a spin-off. Well, I guess you call it a spin-off Black Widow movie, but there's there's some serious stuff in this movie that they just breezed right over. The fact that you had this woman who is still to date the most formidable member of the Avengers team, when you do a pound for pound analysis of it, Black Widow, and the concept of being forcibly sterilized. That's not something you just lightly throw away. That's not for a comic book movie. You know, compare, like, could you imagine if your little kid is there and they're like, "Mom, what does it mean by she was sterile? Like, she's sterile?" You know, that's a hell of a conversation to start with your child. But also, just throw it away like, "Hey, you know, we should be cool, because basically, I know you're suggesting that we can't have sex because if you get worked up, you get angry and hulk out," which is what he kind of suggested. But it's okay because we don't need to have that because I'm sterile. And it's like, huh? Mm. Oh, okay. Now on to the next scene, and it's like,
right.
Wait. Hold on, guys. Let's talk about what just happened.
Right.
Now, if they set that up to be a Black Widow spinoff, and that became one of the focuses where she goes into that and you delve into her past, then that's a hell of a setup. But then again, you just turn Age of Ultron into a commercial like you did Iron Man 2.
Right.
So, I mean, but it's little things like that, which we keep going back to story, but little things like that was what keeps it from being higher on my list.
As far as all-time greats as well. Yeah, right. Like, you know, and I guess I'll end this portion of it with that. For me, I'm not. To me, it's probably not my top 10. Maybe, you know, I'm not. I don't know how many comic book movies we actually have out, but it's probably not even like top 20. You know, it's in the ether of good comic book movies, though. You know.
So what you're saying is it's not the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is what you're saying. even though they stole a very significant plot point from that movie. Oh no, let's go. I got a farm upstate New York. Let's go hang out there.
Yes. Oh my God. What the hell?
No, it's cool. We'll get together. Hey, we'll hang out. We'll be friends again.
Right. You know, I mean, and you know, and maybe I should not have been geek depressed, but that's kind of what made me geek depressed. That it was kind of just in the ether, you know. And maybe that was probably the only extra expectation that I might have had. It was the fact that I wanted to be higher on my list, but that's on me. It has nothing to do. I don't think that's anything to do with whether the movie, you know, for what they did. Like, it's not one of those they messed up. It's like, bro, that's on you. However you felt about it, that's on you. Like, you being depressed ain't got nothing to do with what they did to you. They didn't do nothing to you. But with that said, I think what also added to my geek depression was it kind of concerned me, and maybe irrationally concerned me, to make me think about the future comic book movies, where I'm like, well, maybe Ant-Man won't be that good, or maybe Fantastic Four, maybe Batman v Superman may not be that good. Oh my God! So I guess with that said, that brings us to the next question. You know, this is the lightest we have in terms of comic book movies this year. You know, next year you're gonna have like I think like 8 a year. Then of course, you know, Star Wars is gonna be doing its thing and things of that nature. So do you think we still have the potential for more classics for the comic books to come, to knock the ones that we already have in our list down a peg?
So here's like, when that question is posed to me, I just think about, and this might not be how you're posing it, but do we have the potential for there to be classic movies, not comic book movies, but movies? And I think that when you're approaching these filmmaking process, you should be approaching it with the sense of making a classic movie before a comic book movie. And one of the greatest things about The Dark Knight, and I know a lot of people, some people, I know people that hate The Dark Knight, but
so do
The
I.
Dark Knight was that it was a great movie before it was a comic book movie. It was a great movie. One of the things about The Winter Soldier, which I think makes it classic, is it was a great movie. Like if you put Captain America in a business suit and you put the Winter Soldier in the military fatigues, and you just said it was a detective searching for a war veteran who basically went off the rails, it would still hold up because it was a great movie. You know what I mean? If Dark Knight was a police officer searching for a terrorist, that was a great movie. If they keep doing what they're doing now, where they stop making these movies to be the same, hit note, same note, same note, same note, and they're like taking on different genres, I think we're in the best place ever to have great comic book movies going forward. I think there's so much potential. For instance, when the other day they were, people were trying to figure out where's the rest of the soul gem they're going to end up, or the Infinity Gems, and someone was like, there's the Time Gem. I said, one of the cool things about the Time Gem is if it ends up in the Black Panther, the Black Panther mythology is all about legacy, right? So the Time Gem should appear in the Black Panther because it'll be a story about a guy who's dealing with his legacy. And I'm like, that's an amazing story, because now you can talk about anything. You could make something akin to the King's Speech, or you can make a political thriller, or you could make it about just legacy in general. So yeah, I think we're on the right path.
Yeah, I think you got one hell of a point there. I again, maybe fairly or unfairly, with these new movies that have been coming out to date, especially if we look at movies from the past, like Superman 1978, Richard Donner, Batman, Tim Burton's Batman. I think people have been afraid to knock those out of the box, like, off your top 1 and 2. I think that was like innately had to be your 1 and 2s. And then even when Dark Knight came out, it was like Dark Knight is the best comic book movie, ever. Even though it's just what makes it that, because it's just a great movie, period. Where for me, that's not my list. For me, Man of Steel is actually the greatest comic book movie thus far, for me.
Me too.
It doesn't have to be for anybody else who's listening. Whatever your list is, that's what it should be. Don't let it be what you think it should be.
If it makes you feel better, I disagree with Martel. I think Man of Steel is number 2, because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is number 1. But go ahead.
All right. See, the thing is, as much as I'm like, really, I really do appreciate that. I'm like, yo, the fact that somebody's like, no, mine's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think that's dope. So however you got it is however you got it. But my whole thing is, when you start looking at it that way, for me, it's like Batman Begins was like one of my tops. Then you go, wait a minute, Man of Steel comes out, which is they're not that far separate from each other. And I'm like, and we got another top. I'm not being a prisoner of the moment. I can actually articulate why it belongs on my top and what it really does and how it resonates and its commentary. So I guess I got a little too hyped about that, and I think that's what kind of gave me the scare when Age of Ultron, with my slight disappointment. So I guess I do, I do feel, we have the potential for, of course, we still have the potential for more classics, but when you think about your list, like for example, mine, somebody, one of them on my list is Man of Steel. A very underrated one is Blade 2. Like I always almost forget to put it on my list, knowing damn well it belongs really high up there as an example.
It's weird because with Blade 2, I feel like Blade 1 and 2 should be considered just one movie. Not because of the story wise, but just whenever I think Blade 2, I think Blade 1. Whenever I think Blade 1, I think Blade 2. I just think they're just great movies. But,
yeah, and also they basically do the same thing. They basically do the same thing. Just one does it, to me, better than the other. But they both have their things that make them unique, even though they're basically doing the same thing, if that makes sense. But, with that said, I look at, these future movies like Justice League and Avengers 3 and 4, Infinity War, Black Panther, Doctor Strange. With the way these comic book movies have been going, now that I've said it that way, do you still believe they have the potential to be classics, though? Like, do you look at what Marvel cinematically has done so far? Like, do you feel like they have a bunch of classics there?
You mean classics in the past or classics going forward?
Well, I'm saying classics in the past. I mean, as a point of reference.
Yeah, they do. They have a ton of classic movies, and I think they have a ton of movies that hold up over time. And to me, that's what defines a movie being a classic. Not because of how great it was or how excited you were seeing it the first time. Mm-hmm. It's will it hold up 10 years from now? Will you be able to go back and watch it and not only enjoy it, but also laugh and love it as much as you want to, i.e., will you go back and watch it 30, 40, 50, 60 times? If, kids nowadays who are seeing it for the first time at 10 years old, will they enjoy it when they turn 30? The way I do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or, other movies, the way we do the Richard Donner Superman. Just will that happen? And yes, you right off back, Iron Man was on TV at the barbershop, and I almost messed my hairline up trying to see it. And it's like, how many times have I seen that movie, and why am I still watching it? And this is after I saw Age of Ultron. So it's like, why is that movie still holding more resonance in my mind than this big, new, fantastic $200 million movie that just came out? It's because it was a classic. And like The Winter Soldier, I had that on playing on the background in my house the other day, and I didn't even realize I had bought it. I downloaded it through my Xbox, and I just happened to had it playing. I'm like, oh man, I guess I did buy this because it's classic. Because it's just like something you just want to have and see whenever you want to see it.
Right.
And not to go through the whole list of Marvel Cinematic Universes, they have quite a few classics. And hypocritically enough, I guess you would say, Guardians of the Galaxy to me, even though I don't think it was great as everybody says it was, I do think it kind of will hit that classic note. And that's not because of what they did. It's just because of the content they put in there. They went out of their way to date it to an 80s movie almost that it will hold up over time because it's focusing on a specific decade. So yeah, I mean, that's one of those weird ones though. Like maybe we shouldn't go into that because that's a whole nother conversation.
I mean, you know what? Maybe not though. Because I think what you just said is a really, really interesting point. Because I think I'm still looking at it in terms of an individual and not looking at it as far as the community as a whole. What's been said about these things. You're right, especially with Guardians of the Galaxy. As much as I didn't like it, I know how and why it resonated with people. Especially for those that are older. Like someone who are our age and up. So, like, this is almost like reminiscent to Flash Gordon for people of our age and up in that way. Flash Gordon, you had Queen soundtrack in the back, and of course, this movie has 80s music as its backdrop. So and of course, it's pop culture references. I think that they'll hold up in that way. I think the pop culture references are not so much where people will be asking, as generations go on, what does that mean? So no, you're right. I think they do have quite a few classics, or even if you take it in as a whole, it's a classic on how it was done, and I think people will take that into consideration. So but I guess with that said, I think that'll be it for today, y'all. We're gonna end the podcast on that note. I'd like to thank Talmadge for being here. Thank you, brother, for assisting me in this. I couldn't have done it by myself. Being a one-man army, a one-man show is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been lonely. I'd have been like out in the void, like I'm by myself. Somebody help me. So good luck for helping me out, brother.
Absolutely.
With that said, for all those that will listen, hope you enjoyed it. We will be doing more. Right now, we're just giving you to you live and raw. That's it, y'all. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Catch you on the next one. Until then, this is Geek Mode, and we'll catch you on the next podcast. Peace.